to kick off. Let's do that, shall we?
We're live now.
We're live now, thanks.
We're
Thanks,
live.
Teresa.
Well, tēnā tātou, kia ora tātou. Me mihi hoki tēnei kia tātou I raro I te haumarutanga mō tātou whānau. Tuatahi rā māku e mihi ki kia rātou ngā mate. Ko mate tēnei o tātou o rongo whakāta, ko tēnei srāti matera. No rongo whakāta, no whakatū hoki kei roto o te kahunganu nei. Me rātou katoa ngā mate o te kāinga. Hoki wairu atu koutou katoa. Ko tātou kanuhi ora, tēnā tātou katoa. Me timata mai tēnei roto I te karakia. E te atua tēnei mātou au panongo tino nei kia koe kia tata mai koe kia mātou tēnei Hauora, taino atu ki tēnei pō. Manakitia mai kia rātou I raro I te kapa o pauri, rātou hoki e māwiwi ana. E pāte atu te ki runga tō I ngō tapu. Ameni. Kia ora everybody, thank you again for the opportunity to sit with us. Ākanohi, it's debatable ātinana. But anyway, we'll just call it ākanohi at this stage. We are on open public live streaming, and I understand it's going to be recorded for the purposes of YouTube. So bear that in mind. There is a hand function on our Zoom operator. If you want to speak, please use the hand function. I can see you a bit better then. And the only other thing I've got to say is smile. All right. If anyone got any GB items that they want to take? All right. Well, let's just kick in, shall we? So we've got 1.2 as our apologies. Have we received any? There might be some for lateness due to the change in link. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, any interest to update? If you have, just email those through to Helena, please. Any conflicts of interest with the agenda today? Probably not. As I said, there are no decision items, so we can virtually plough on ahead. Can I take us to page 5, 3.1 on the agenda, the previous minutes? So are there any matters arising and or corrections required for those minutes? I'm taking that as no. Very good. We'll accept those. And then action items. There are a couple I just want to update on those. The action item for myself and Tōmai, it's with the cultural audit for for the FRAC committee. You'll see later on in the papers that Peter sent us around head eatinga. We're proposing to adjust some of those for that purpose, for that cultural audit, and send those on to Heather Robinson, the chair of that committee. The other one is the terms of reference. If I can just say, you'll remember the paper we got from Bernard and Mara at our last meeting. In there, it particularly talks about how all the what we know as the Waiora Nukutaimemeha, what they're calling as iwi Māori partnership boards, they've designed a new terms of reference anyway. So rather than us trying to do something separate and then it being overlaid by that other process, I'm proposing that we involve that other process in our terms of reference. Because those things are going to be pretty well legislated, as far as I understand it, through the reforms process. So for the want of not mucking around, wasting our time trying to work something up, which is going to be superseded in, I don't know, 6 months, I'm proposing we close off that one and work with the new terms of reference being proposed through the reforms process. Kei te pai tērā. And the only other action item was Whiti. You're going to still send us that copy of that proposal, eh? Rawe, I am on 4.1, which is Jim's report for information. Thanks, Jim.
Well, thank you, thank you, Nga. I really think that it was put together in a bit of a hurry this month with the amount of other things that were happening on there. So I just really wanted to highlight within there the work that's going on around the mental health and addictions facility, and the fact that even though we're now in alert level 4, there's still work going on to try and keep that moving along, because this is taking a long time to get as far as we've got, and we don't want to lose any momentum now. So that is actually continuing on to make sure that we don't lose any time as a result of this current period of level 4. And the other thing that is very topical as well is making sure that we also don't lose any momentum around cancer treatment for people, and the team's making sure that they are keeping those services going over this period of time. And I can assure people that they are continuing as normal during this period of time, because they just can't be delayed.
What have you done, Jim?
I don't know, because I was talking there, but I stopped.
Why did you stop? Have you finished?
Because I finished, yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to ask one thing. Helena, could you add that Mukapuna's name to our list of attendees, please, and public part of our hui? Thank you.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of help there. Frank Parker's the name for the agenda if you want to put him down.
Frank Parker. There we are. That's part of your youth report in your youth response in your report. Very good. Okay, I'm asking if anyone had any comment to make on the report from Jim, please. I'm going through my top bar. There are none. All right, I'm going to take that as a completed report. Thank you very much, Jim. Peter, we're going to leave you under 4.2. We'll leave you. You can come in on this. Well, the next item is that letter, Peter, from Ropu Manaki Mana. Do you want to have a little chat on that one?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Oh, it's just an information item.
Yeah.
Just letting the board know about this proposed hui. I had mentioned it in a previous report some months ago. It had been growing momentum in terms of plan for Tairāwhiti. There's a number of things going to happen. A large number of attendees, 150 is being looked at, coming through, and all involved with A&E,
all vaccinated,
or ED. And I suppose it's just whether it's still going to be on or not, maybe now.
Tongue in cheek, but are they all vaccinated?
Well, I can't say, I can't comment on that, but hopefully they will be.
It's topical, and we're pushing that here, so
yeah,
don't want our percentages to drop. You can let them know we're interested if people are vaccinated.
Yeah.
I see some of your Ngā Tuka Hauora coming with Ricky and Marama. Did I read them right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Marama has been, well, her background's in ED, and Ricky's always, I think, been part of the governance group from his role, and particularly around equity.
Ana ka pai tira. Anyone have any questions or anything to ask about that? It's an updated report anyway, so following on. Ka pai tira. All right, let's go to 5.2, which is Nicola, another for info paper. Thank you, Nicola.
I'm hoping people have had an opportunity to read it, but also to say that we've had a significant shift in the way in which we are responding at the moment. Of course, from last week, we've had an increase in both our testing and vaccination rates. And so rather than go through a sort of dated report now, are there any questions?
Koena te tono, he pātai wā tātai?
Thanks for the paper. Just wondering whether in terms of the COVID vaccinations, we're including the wants and needs of the community. I see this morning, actually yesterday, a request from the community for COVID vaccinations on the East Coast, and Ngāti Porou Hauora pivoting to do that. Have we got the appetite to do more of that, and who else are we engaging with around that?
So thanks, Whiti. Before we set out, we met with Toitu, and I think also, I think now were you there as Nukutaimemeha chair? Just being really clear that we would support the aspirations of iwi Māori. The program to date has, particularly in the East Coast and in the Western areas, has been led out by our iwi partners. And equally, in the more recent Te Tini o Porou and the Harriers Club in industrial area, also aspirationally led through our iwi Māori providers. We've been working closely with them in terms of having a consistent message going out to whānau about where they can actually access vaccinations. And so we're working hard to do that. The only thing that's stopping us from fully saturating our community with sites is the fact that our vaccination workforce needs to be managed across the three teams of people that are currently delivering those vaccinations. We're aware that Ngāti Porou, the East Coast, has called out. I was talking with Kara the other day, and they're working through how they may be able to do some innovative approaches up the coast. Again, we're lending in teams from the District Health Board where there are gaps in vaccinator workforce.
I think it's also important to remember that the coast people were the first people in Tairāwhiti to get vaccinated. So Ngāti Porou Hauora has been up the coast twice to vaccinate people already. So yeah, they led out the way and made that available to coast people. And now, of course, everywhere more people are coming forward. So we have to work out how we're going to make that work for people.
Yeah, acknowledging the strength of everyone to be able to take it up there, and just the sheer commitment. Really, I went to get my COVID the other day, and the number of people committing long hours to accommodate the need of our community. So he mihi tēnei ki na ira o na kaimahi, nā ringa raupā kua tautoko i nā hia o te hāpori. The other thing I want to acknowledge really is I saw an ad on TV last night with our coast people promoting on TV. And again, that's, when we're thinking about the transition to the new, that's what we're talking about. When we hand over the tools to the community to be able to meet their needs, then you get that flourishing, and they're all behind it. And again, just acknowledging everyone for the hard work. So want to come back to the youth part, because that's really my, because we've opened it up now to our rangatahi cohort around COVID. And I know our vaccination teams are under the pump. Talking about innovation, would you have appetite to open to community groups to support. Koina taku pātai kia koutou.
So we're absolutely open to that. Again, we're working to support what our iwi Māori provider partners are leading out on, and so where that's possible, that's what we would encourage. So for town, for example, that's Tūranga Health, and the key person in that area is Bobby Cameron. Likewise with Ngāti Pro Hauora, the key person in that provider is Carolee Lawton. And then locally, we have Lizette Hayes, who can link in with the non-Māori organisations. So depending on what would be helpful, it would be good for us to know, and then we can, for them to know, and then we can link in with how that then works.
Apai tēnā.
It's great to raise the youth question. We've been encouraging whānau participation, so bring your whānau with you. Make it an event that where your whānau is made safe in this environment, and there've been lots of response to that. But we know that there is a particular group that will need more work to do. So in that light, we are still to tackle how to do specific encouraging activities for youth to participate in.
Apai. I just, if I could just draw our attention to, Jim, if you could, just noting that the figures in that paper have been updated. So that was from the 14th of the 8th, and that 3,600 per week has now increased to, Jim, what was that magic figure?
Oh, you're mute.
Sorry. So it's still 3,600 a week on our program, but actually last week we did 4,100, and we do expect to do more than 3,600 this week as well at the rate that we are going. Yesterday we did over 1,100 doses in one day. So if we carry on at that rate, which you probably won't be able to carry on at that rate, because that is very much dependent on the amount of vaccinators we're able to get on the ground, which is high at the moment. But if we carried on that rate, obviously we will do more than 3,600 in a week.
And ka hoki au I o whakaaro whiti e mihi kia rātou nā ringaraupa, e mihi ana tēnei mai. So there's a lot of, by the looks of that paper, there's a lot of different people involved in pushing those numbers through. So, just to tautoko whiti's mihi to the ringaraupa, well done and thank you. I think it's really important.
Now, could I just also add, though, that, technically, we're still actually at 40 years old and plus as the population group that's being vaccinated at present. But as we always do in Tairāwhiti, we've just modified that a little bit and accepting whānau, entire whānau to come along. And so we're actually clearly vaccinating much younger than 40 plus at present. And we've always had that. We've always had that concept that when the whānau come, they get vaccinated as a whole.
I think we term the terminology is the Tairāwhiti way. Jim. No, ka pai, awesome.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
yes. Just
to Nicola, around the border workers, and I see a significant shift has occurred. We started with them, I think one of the first areas that we started with, given the critical entry point there. What happened there, Nicola? Was it, as we've seen with tauranga, it seemed to be an issue around subcontractors and their employees not getting vaxxed when those issues have arisen over there. Was that an issue here, or was it most of the workforce is under Eastland Port and it's more around hesitancy or something else?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of a number of different things, Pete. We do have different people employing workers who work on the ports. We also had worries. People were worried. Our first vaccination event got a number of people to be vaccinated, but it did leave quite a few unvaccinated. The whānau we've got working there now, Tūranga House, who are doing both testing and vaccinating at the port, have had some quick success, so that's been really good. And part of it is, again, when they observed areas such as Tauranga having a bit of a challenge, that always ups people's responses. And of course, right now, with level 4, it is also upping people's responses. So really that people are getting vaccinated is our interest, and hopefully get people up to that group protection level.
Just the other factor I think that we should mention with border workers is that there was a degree of resistance around the fact that even when people were vaccinated, as is the case still, that they still require regular swabbing. So there was a perception that I need swabbing, I need to use PPE, and then getting vaccinated on top is not actually going to provide me any direct benefit to myself that that is obvious. And so that was part a little bit about hesitancy about taking that step as well at that time. But that's clearly changed now. Now they're compelled to get vaccinated. So, but doing it willingly.
Whiti.
Tētahi atu mea ko kiteo, or just another thing I've seen, and it, because you always sort of look across DHB. So one of the things I've seen with ours is the one source of truth. So regular communication coming from our DHB regarding COVID. And what I like about it is it's got all the providers on it, locations, times, booking or walk-in. So, providing everything that the community want to know. That's been gold, because I haven't seen it in others, because I look after medical centres in Eastern Bay of Plenty. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for ours. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should acknowledge that we took a little while to get a very local, community-oriented communications lead on board with our vaccination team. But Toitu has done an exceptional job, and what we've been able to do is just tap in quite quickly with where they've already moved their comms to, and that has been able to draw all of that info. So thanks for that feedback. That's really good for our comms team.
Any other comments from anyone to make? Kia ora Lois, kia ora tō mai. All right, we'll take that paper for information. Thank you very much, Nicola. Good, very good. I'm on 5.3, which is the Iwi Māori Partnership Board update. So there's a paper in there around the capacity assessment tool guidelines for transitioning. It's there's a bit going on in there. And so it's going to take a little bit to work through all of that stuff. I'm hoping someone who's on the transition unit can help us work through that paper, not today, but it's over a period of time. Or is that something that's going to be designed, Nicola, by the team?
Look, being mindful that there's further meetings to be had.
Yeah,
I can share, which is that there's all sort of different levels of where iwi Māori partnership boards are at across the country. This is a way for each of those boards to take stock of what might be needed going forward. And my understanding is that there will be some resource available.
Yeah. And by way of update as well, through Te Manawa Taki Māori, there are some developments occurring around this, exactly this sort of thing. Sharon Shea is putting together a bit of a program to help to develop iwi Māori partnership boards going forward. I think Te Pora and Linda Steele have also put individual papers forward to John Whanga, looking for that same resource support to develop iwi Māori partnership boards. So just a very quick update on those two things. All right, if that's okay, can we go to 5.4, heritinga? So there's quite a bit involved in that. I thought just the heritinga paper pertained to us today, but the rest of it, like the assessments and stuff, Peter, I think are more for the people who are assessing, rather than for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. There's been a heritinga refresh, which is for the DHB NGOs, and that would be applied for the DGO, the DHB itself, a tailored version. And there's the other, which is Te Aro Matawai, which is for the kaupapa Māori services.
Right. So this is, so in that heritinga was some of the cultural audit tools or clauses that I thought that Tomai and I would share with Heather, because she was asking for some of those for her subcommittee. Essentially, though, from this point forward, do I understand this correctly? Is that well, I guess I better ask the question. So what's the process for it from here on through, Peter?
The process for your action?
No. Well, no. We'll take care of that. But the implementation of heritinga, where does it go to from here?
I would presume that would go into the annual plan, Jim.
In terms of actually putting this work into play, or it's too late for the annual plan. I mean, the annual plan is in Wellington to be approved. So I think that that's in there anyway.
So this is the audit tool that the HSL team use. And so it's being applied. Can I just comment that the HSL team, because one of the stop or checks that happened with the heritinga audit was they got to Te Kupunga Net Trust, and basically we're challenged about how can you do this assessment without having the right people being able to assess this.
Yes.
And so I understand there was a very good process that was undertaken from a kaupapa Māori perspective, and that's some of the work that will come through to be able to go into Māori NGOs going forward. But heritinga, this one, is being profiled as the DHB audit tool to assess against the degree or quality of services in response to Māori. And so that program of work is run out through HSL.
Right. So HSL will do all the auditing using this tool. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Anyone else have any comment to make on this? These papers?
Yeah, just Ngāwai and Ngātoka, Mr. Chair, had asked Healthshare to incorporate it as one of the audits when they undertake the audits. And I think it was getting to that point because prior to that, there was no automatic inclusion of heritinga. We had it once in the DHB, and that really was at the end of that pilot that was trialled over in BOP DHB.
Okay, so Healthshare, HSL, I think Healthshare Limited, so they're going to undertake the audits, which would include our provider network, our could separately include the Kaupapa Māori program services and the DHB itself. Is that how I read that information flow? So it's a coverall, I suppose I'm asking. Is it a coverall across all of the services?
I believe the DHB has to ask or request an audit to be undertaken.
Okay.
Because there's a shortage of cultural auditors, is what I gathered from the lead auditor, Tracy Kirehoma, and that if the DHB wished to undertake an audit, it needed to know that one, there was a shortage, a capacity issue, but also that they would then tailor it. So my thoughts are that it's actually the DHB would request it.
Okay, all right.
And so we need to create that resourcing around that. The other part of the email I sent you was around our internal audit team wanting to discuss that. I haven't had that discussion with them yet. They haven't been to see me. I'm expecting that may be an action for them under the new annual plan.
All right. Well, ka pai tēnā. Yeah.
I was going to say I'd be surprised if it's in the annual plan that they do that, because I just think that they are not actually well designed to be able to do any of that auditing. My personal opinion.
Is that HSL?
Yeah, to add into the internal audit program 1 or 2 questions. I just don't think that it's just not going to work. I think it's better to focus in on getting properly trained people to do the audits in a more comprehensive fashion, right, as it's just been described, rather than adding 1 or 2 audit questions into an audit for a completely different purpose.
Right.
It just doesn't seem to fit for me.
And that was one of the main concerns of the NGO sector, wasn't it? That they as Nicola indicated, they were very uneasy about not, people who weren't competent to assess this thing to come along and implement it.
I'm not saying they're incompetent. I'm just saying that they've got different skill set than what might be required to do, to do justice to these sorts of questions.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the kaupapa Māori nā with Te Aro Matawai, with this refreshed he ritinga for the NGOs, the DHB funded NGOs. I'm not too sure how that applies to them. I suppose that may well come out of planning and funding as part of an audit process.
So there were 2 things, as I understood, about he ritinga. One was that it should be utilised, and I think what you're saying, Pete, is that it should be part of a seamless audit process that goes into district health boards. All right, so there are, the issue with that is that the main audit for district health boards is actually the compliance and coding audit, which doesn't have any connection with HSL. So that means that HSL then only is requested to come in to do a he ritinga audit. So that's a little bit about what the function is. When we're going into non-Māori NGOs in the community, that is the tool that is used or should be used. It's not now used in Māori or kaupapa Māori NGOs. So I think the issue that you were being asked to address, which put a few things in, like the treaty and equity into any other audits that could be occurring, probably is not the right approach based on what Jim is talking about. And perhaps what should happen is that a he ritinga audit is called for. And then we would expect that, because from my external perspective for the HSL group who are doing audits in non-Māori environments, they've got more knowledge, I think, than perhaps some of the people that they're auditing in mainstream services, but they have less when they're going into NGO environments.
Yes, okay.
Good point.
Okay, so then it's just not a blanket come and audit us type situation, would it? You would cater for whichever part of the organisation you're wanting to audit.
So if we were getting examples where lots of complaints were coming in from people who were saying they felt that they'd been treated in a disrespectful way, they believed that there was racism involved with that part of the system,
Yes.
we might review those complaints and say, oh, perhaps we should do a vetting audit here and see what's at.
Oh, kapai. Is that you, Whiti?
Can I jump in now?
Yes, go.
Just following on from our hui and roto, one of the aspects of this was Māori, because what we're trying to embed.
I'm sorry, Whiti, your bandwidth is not coming through. Your corridor is not coming through.
In our hui. Oh, okay. All good.
Aroha mai.
Haere tonu.
All right.
Oh.
Any other korero for that he ritinga from anyone else? All right. Good. Okay, we'll take that paper. Oh gosh, I've come to the end of the agenda, and there is a general business item. So, Whiti, pehea tō bandwidth.
I was just wondering before you spoke, Whiti, it might help the kōrero if you turned off your video, maybe.
Is it better?
I'm sorry, Whiti, you might have to type it. You're like that ad on TV where they're chopping that hedge.
It's all right.
Sorry.
Well, I'll leave it for the next week.
Okay. Okay. Kapai. That brings us to the end of our open agenda for this week. So, and this is new to me. So, Helena, do you switch something off? And just for interest's sake, how many hundreds of people hooked in?
I don't know how many hundreds of people have hooked in. IT might be able to tell us that shortly. But if we'll just take a couple of minutes break, and I'll let Jamisa know that we're going into
committee. Just before you do that, me mihi ka tika kia koutou nā tāngata e whakarongo mai, titiro mai ki tēnei hui o te Waiora Nukutaimemeha. Thank you to everybody who has or will view this either on YouTube or presently. Thanks. Ka pai, ka kite.